Hey everyone, thanks so much for clicking on this video. We'll get right into it and we'll talk through what is green gas. So this canister that I have in front of me is a can of green gas. This is the Elite Force fuel, as they call it, and it's a green gas that I typically use for a lot of my GBB, whether it's the rifle or the pistol. Same gas again. I use, of course, other brands of gas as well, and I certainly wanted to kind of talk through as to what this is. And if you're new to airsoft, especially getting into some of those gas blowback pistol or gas blowback rifles, or even gas powered sniper rifles, or anything that's related as far as being green gas powered, this is hopefully something that you'll find useful as far as a video and be more of a kind of an educational piece, especially if you're new to all of this. So let's get started. Let's talk through it a little bit more, and we'll go from there. So before we talk about the uses of green gas, let's go ahead and look at a few examples of what green gas is going to be used for. So as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be anything that's going to be gas blowback as far as the action goes for the firearm. So one example that I have here is a WeTech Glock 17, using that for today's example. Again, anything that is gas powered as far as green gas goes, for the most part, is going to have a realistic cycling action just like this, to where every time you pull the trigger, the slide will go back and it'll load in the BB, and you're basically ready to rock and roll. So again, it's simulating the action of a real firearm. The magazines themselves are going to be the main gas storage place as far as where that reservoir is. Most, if not all, gas magazines are going to have a valve on the bottom of them, to where you're going to take your your green gas canister and you are going to insert it into that valve, press down and hold for about 5 to 15 seconds until you stop hearing that sound, that hissing sound, which basically is telling you that the magazine is full, you're ready to rock and roll. So again, there's a pistol, like I said, it's going to simulate that realistic movement as far as the cycling of the BB. And then when we get into the GBBRs, that's again a similar concept, it's just a little bit more different. So let's take a look at one of those. When we're talking GBBRs, here is a good example of a GBBR. This one is the WE AK-74UN. This one is a gas blowback AK-74. This one is going to be the open bolt edition, meaning you get a full travel bolt here with every time this cycles a BB. Now this one again is gas blowback, meaning the actions are going to be very much realistic to the real steel counterpart of this. And again, that's another reason why GBBRs and gas blowbacks in general are popular amongst airsofters. And that's again just due to that added realism, because you can't say that that's not satisfying to rack a bolt on an AK-74 or an AK in general. Very satisfying. You get a lot of that realistic action as far as it kicking. You got that recoil, and of course it's loud and obnoxious, but in a good way. So again, there's going to be some pluses as far as the GBB side, and green gas again is going to be one of those things that a lot of airsofters prefer to use, again, with their airsoft guns, as opposed to something that's battery powered or spring powered. Now probably one question you have is, okay, green gas is green gas, what about propane? What does propane do? So propane and green gas are essentially the same. The kind of upside as far as green gas goes is it has a mixture of propane and silicone oil, whereas propane does not. So propane itself is a very dry gas. The green gas in a canister like this actually has that kind of lubrication to it as far as keeping your parts essentially working as they're supposed to, with less of that wear and tear and, you know, the seals and valves and stuff like that drying up. More so the rubber O-rings or rubber gaskets, not so much the actual metal components, but it's those gaskets that tend to dry out if you typically use only propane. Green gas is certainly a winner in that sense because it has kind of a two-in-one. Obviously, there's going to be a different range as far as pricing goes. Propane is extremely cheap, and again, it's because it's everywhere. You can get it literally at a Walmart in those giant canisters for camping stoves, whereas these, you know, this certainly is probably going to be 2 to 3 times more than that propane gallon or canister, not gallon, but like a pretty nice little barrel, which most of you I'm sure have seen. You know, and again, the price increase is just due to that mixture of that additional component in green gas to help essentially prolong the length of your GBB pistol or rifle. So again, there's pros and cons between the two. I would say, you know, the good and the bad. Obviously, it's expensive. You know, if you're gonna go with green gas, it's expensive. The more of these you buy, you know, and the more that you go airsofting or the more that you fire your GBB, the more money you're going to spend essentially to fuel it, to use it. Propane, on the other hand, is very cheap, but again, the cheap kind of has that negative side to it, to where it can wear down some of the components faster. Obviously, you can use additives as far as lubrication, oils, and stuff like that. When you do use propane, there's even adapters to where you can drip a few dabs of oil in the adapter, and then you screw it onto the propane tank, and you know, every 10 or so refills, you just need to keep refilling that. Certainly an option, but some may not want to deal with the hassle. They just want something quick and easy like this. Fill it up and you're good to go. Okay, so how do we fill a magazine up with green gas? So again, here's a little tip there built into the actual canister itself. You're going to be looking for that valve there on the bottom. Again, it's that guy right there. And you are going to literally just align the two, press down, and hold for a few seconds. And you heard it maybe hiss, maybe you didn't, but it hissed while it was filling, and then you just hear the hissing stop. That's already your indicator that the mag is good to go. It's full. You don't need to sit there for, you know, a full minute trying to charge it up. You just need literally a few seconds until you stop hearing the hiss, and that's all it is. Be mindful that when you're dealing with magazines, obviously the larger the magazine of a GBB, the larger the gas reservoir, therefore the more gas it's going to need. So there's again the fill hole there on my WeTech AK-74 UN. So again, concept's identical, but again, it may take probably several seconds longer to fill this versus this smaller Glock magazine. So just some references there as far as if you're looking to get into one or the other. You know, there's a difference there as far as how much gas it can hold. So now let's talk about uses. Now, the thing with green gas, comparing it to like CO2, let's say, green gas doesn't fare too well in the colder climates. It actually starts seeing a decrease in performance probably when you get to that 60, 50 degree Fahrenheit and below, to the point where it may not even function at all. It might even shoot off a few rounds and then it just kind of gets stuck, or you get that hiss of the emptiness coming out of the gun because the hammer just was not able to get locked back in place to keep the valve from being closed, so the hammer is just sitting on the valve letting the gas out. Again, I have a few videos of that where you can kind of get an example of what you may experience if you do shoot anything that's green gas or propane for that matter. It's the same exact thing that'll happen. So that's the only negative piece of green gas. CO2 works basically in any condition, whether it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit or it's minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. CO2 will work. You know, it won't falter in any way, but green gas certainly prefers that warmer temperature. And of course, the warmer the temperature, if you're maybe airsofting, 75 to 85 degree Fahrenheit weather, you're probably going to have better efficiency, meaning you're going to get more shots out of your mag fill. So again, playing in warmer climates certainly aids the efficiency of green gas. So that's kind of the main differences between cold and hot climates, and then of course comparing slightly to CO2 and the differences there. Another important factor, and maybe some of you may think it's silly because some of you could be watching already somewhat experienced, have filled up a green gas pistol or rifle before, or propane, you know how to do it. For the ones that have never done this, they're thinking about stepping into the GBB world, you just want to be very conscious of the fact that you are essentially dealing with a flammable liquid slash gas, to the point where if you misuse it or do things in a silly or stupid manner, you could possibly get hurt. I can't say that I haven't been in that boat before, but this is just a me talking from experience thing. Be very conscious of how you fill up your magazines. Don't do anything stupid. Keep it away from any, of course, combustible areas or sources to avoid any possible explosion. But anyway, that's probably one of the bigger pieces of it, is there's more of a hazard because it is a liquid. So meaning, especially if you transport it in your car or something, be super mindful of that and don't leave it in there if the car gets super hot. It's just one of those things that you could help prevent a big issue from happening. Obviously, all airsoft guns have their own hazards, like AEGs have their battery hazards. If you have cheap battery equipment, for example, sometimes they get short, catch fire. Gas, of course, is very flammable. Same with propane, very flammable, very dangerous under pressure. Those things. But it's just using your common sense and your best judgment in situations like this. So again, just something I thought I'd add there. The last and final thing to this video is, with all my years of experience, which probably spans over a decade and a half, if not more, in the airsoft game world, or just in the airsoft world in general, I've used all sorts of different green gas brands, different canisters. I certainly found all of them for the most part to be the same. I almost want to even say, don't be fooled by a brand name that's better than the other, supposedly. It's green gas. It has the same chemicals and components in it to do the job that it's designed for. So I can certainly share as far as little snippets of what other models there are as far as green gas goes and brands, but again, it's all the same stuff. It'll get the job done for you. And I hope that this video is somewhat of a educational piece, and for those of you that genuinely are new to the green gas or just GBB world in general, hopefully you had some takeaways from this video. If you guys have any questions or anything to that matter as far as green gas goes and GBBs, leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out if there's any other questions. But again, thanks for watching.